So about 2 years ago, I kind of made a push to break back into YouTube again. And one of the videos I made was a what if video that featured what if Eli Manning decided to allow the San Diego Chargers at the time to draft him and didn't demand a trade immediately on draft day and didn't immediately say that I refused to play for the San Diego Chargers. How would have the NFL shaken up? And by the way, it's a great video. It got copyright claimed, but still, it's one of my best works. I spent like a week on it. So if it's on this channel, I'll leave a link to it in the description down below. And if I forgot it, please let me know in the comment section. I'll try to leave an end screen to it as well. But at the time I was making the video, I kind of condemned Eli Manning for being so unprofessional. How could you refuse to play for a NFL team? How could you put your foot down and say, I don't want to play for this organization? After all, it's only fair. The organization has the right to draft you, and that organization gets the rights to you. You can't just say, hey, I don't want to play for this team. Even furthermore, we remember when John Elway refused to play for the Baltimore Colts at the time and said that he wanted to get traded if he got drafted number 1 overall by them. We've seen this many times throughout history. And at the time, I just couldn't understand why players would do such a thing. Did John Elway not like Baltimore? Did Eli Manning not like sunny San Diego? Did he like New York that much? Well, it's starting to make a little bit more sense to me. Now, before we get to the content, I just want to let you know I'm giving away a PlayStation 5 on this channel. All you have to do is smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on my notifications. I'm literally just going to pick someone that has my notifications on and is subscribed to this channel to win a PS5. I'm also doing PlayStation 5 giveaways on my Twitter, on my Instagram, on my basketball channel, The Flight Mike. There's plenty of opportunities for you guys to win. Now that we got all that out of the way, break! Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Guys, I got some news today that just drove me absolutely insane. It literally drove me crazy because once again, I got to watch a player that I don't care what you think about Ohio State quarterbacks. I understand that Ohio State University quarterbacks don't have the greatest track record of success in the NFL. As a matter of fact, I don't think there's a single Ohio State quarterback that has succeeded in the NFL. If you want to count Troy Smith, that's fine, but he was more of a career backup. Braxton Miller had some success as a wide receiver once he converted from quarterback, so I guess you could count that as well. But if you look at players like Cardale Jones and JT Barrett and other notable Ohio State quarterbacks, nobody really did so well in the NFL. And the player that probably had the greatest chance to be successful was Dwayne Haskins. Now, I understand that if you're a NFL draft head like me, then you're always going to liken Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, and Mitchell Trubisky together because the Bears could have had Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes, and Mitchell Trubisky hasn't been developing so well so far. I made a video on that as well. But a few years later, we saw something very similar happen. You see, the New York Giants were linked to Dwayne Haskins throughout the entire NFL draft process before they eventually drafted Daniel Jones. And so far, at the time of this video, this season, Daniel Jones has only thrown for 2 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Dwayne Haskins has thrown for 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and has a rushing TD. Daniel Jones has not had a QB rating over 30 this season, and Dwayne Haskins has in 3 games. Yet the media appears to be saying that the New York Giants are failing Daniel Jones, and you can make an argument to a certain extent that the New York Giants front office and new regime hasn't done enough to tell me that they're a functional organization and a good coaching staff for Daniel Jones. And also, I'm going to cut him some slack because, of course, when Saquon Barkley tears his ACL, clearly Saquon Barkley's your number 1 option, and that puts a lot of more pressure on your second-year quarterback. But you see, what drives me absolutely insane about the Washington football team, and forgive me, I feel like I'm going to call them the Redskins at least 1 or twice in this video, just know I'm still getting used to it, is that if I was Dwayne Haskins, I would have said, don't let me go to Washington. As a matter of fact, I think as a result of the mismanagement of multiple quarterbacks recently, multiple quarterbacks that have flashed their potential, I would be way more wary in the future if I'm a quarterback with a ton of potential. You see, we all look at Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think they're the gold standard of how a quarterback needs to be brought along. You see, Patrick Mahomes is a very raw talent. You have a great bridge quarterback in Alex Smith that is mentoring him, that has had a track record of mentoring successful quarterbacks. I don't know if you want to consider Colin Kaepernick successful, but I feel like Cap had a pretty good career prior to 2016. And eventually, as he's grooming Patrick Mahomes, as he's sitting back and learning the complicated Andy Reid offense with no pressure on his shoulders whatsoever because he's just sitting and learning, you have Alex Smith that's literally having a near MVP career and is teaching Mahomes the ropes before you eventually trade your bridge quarterback to another team and you insert Mahomes in. And I'm seeing some teams do this beautifully, by the way. Like, what do you think the Miami Dolphins are doing currently with Tua Tagovailoa? Do you think that they truly think that Ryan Fitzpatrick is a better quarterback than Tua? No. The reason why Tua Tagovailoa hasn't started at quarterback yet is because the Miami Dolphins have a horrific offensive line. And Tua Tagovailoa also has a little bit of an injury history. So there's no rush in plugging him in until they're absolutely sure that he is ready to play. I wouldn't be surprised if Tua doesn't play at all this year because the Miami Dolphins have a ton of draft capital coming in this offseason, and they can put a pretty good team around him and prepare him to be successful in the NFL. Not throw him to the wolves the way the Washington football team has had with Dwayne Haskins. And I'm just so upset about this. I am absolutely irate about this because Dwayne Haskins literally never stood a chance. It's so disgusting how little of a chance this player has been given. He's had 20 games as a pro so far where he has worn a Washington jersey. He's played in 13 games, okay? He's played under 3 different offensive systems. So he's had to learn 3 different playbooks so far. He's only had 1 legitimate receiving weapon in Terry McLaurin. He's had a horrible offensive line. And until Ron Rivera showed up, this was a completely dysfunctional organization. It appears as though it still is a completely dysfunctional organization. Now, here's the thing that's baffling me even more so far. Dwayne Haskins last week performed pretty damn well. He went 32 for 45. He had 314 passing yards. He had a 90.4 passer rating. He had no interceptions. Yeah, of course the Washington football team lost to the Baltimore Ravens because you're the Washington football team and they're the Baltimore Ravens. If you go into passer rating, you see that Daniel Jones has a 68.3 so far. Sam Darnold has a 70.7. Dwayne Haskins has an 80.3, and he definitely has the least weapons out of everyone. Yet, despite all of this, the Washington football team decided to not only make Dwayne Haskins the second string QB, he's not even the second string QB anymore, he's the third string quarterback. Now, there could be many reasons for this benching. They may think that, hey, we've seen enough and Dwayne Haskins isn't the answer. Or they might be realizing that they're ruining a perfectly good quarterback's career by complete mismanagement of him so far, and they want him to sit back and learn the offense a little bit better. Now, I doubt the Washington football team is smart enough to do that. Now, of course, I've said this over and over and over again. Every single time a new head coach comes in, they're going to try their best to insert their guy under center. And guess who Ron Rivera is allowing to start next week for the Washington football team? Yup, you guessed it, his starter for last year, Kyle Allen, who's had a couple of good weeks when he was with the Carolina Panthers. And I guess Ron Rivera's hoping that now that he has a little bit of familiarity, that he'll be the guy for the Washington football team moving forward. And to give you an idea of how little of a chance Dwayne Haskins had from the get-go, do you know what his first game was for Washington? It was when Washington was down 3-24 in week 4 of the NFL season last year against the New York Giants. And Jay Gruden felt his seat warming up, so guess what he did? He decided to insert Dwayne Haskins, despite Dwayne Haskins not being ready for the job at all whatsoever. And Haskins finished with 9 of 17 passing for 107 yards and 3 interceptions. You see, this is what I mean when I say you need to set up your QBs for success. The NFL isn't like the NBA where you could draft a talent and have them come in immediately and resurrect your franchise. That barely happens. And even I think the only time that's ever happened, at least where I was notified of it or it was glaringly obvious for me, was when Andrew Luck came into the league. And even his career was ruined by complete and utter mismanagement by the Indianapolis Colts. So if you're a general manager that happens to watch my content, first of all, please hit my email because I would love to take a job underneath you guys and I would love to get into a front office role for the NFL. But in addition to that, stop drafting your QBs and crushing and crippling their confidence and setting them up for failure. Look at the way that the Kansas City Chiefs did it. Look at the way that the Miami Dolphins are currently doing it. Sure, there are instances where you draft a quarterback like Dak Prescott or Russell Wilson and they just come in and magically become a remarkable quarterback from the get-go. But even those two players had help in the form of phenomenal running games and, in Russell Wilson's instance, fantastic defenses. I just wanted to get this info out to you guys because I was so upset when I found out that Dwayne Haskins got benched and was all the way down to the third string for Washington. Let me know what you think is going to happen to Haskins for the rest of his career, because this just really pains me to watch. We already saw what happened to Josh Rosen, and I really hope Dwayne Haskins doesn't head for the same road. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.